Being the child of immigrants has taught me some valuable lessons. These lessons have shaped me into the young man that I am today. My parents immigrated to the United States from Brazil before I was born. Their plan was to open and operate a Beanie Baby store in Orlando with another couple. By the time I was born, the business was struggling and my parents ultimately lost everything. They were pioneer immigrants in their families and were completely alone in the US with no support. My father took any menial job he could find to scrape together enough money to provide for my mother and me. Eventually, he became a truck driver. He saw this as an opportunity to better our lives. He would work during the day and then study to get a CDL at night. He worked hard for others and saved to buy his own truck. He began to earn enough to support my mother, my new baby brother, and myself. The trucking company did so well that we were able to realize the dream of owning our own home. Then things took a turn for the worse, and he lost his business again. Lesson number 1, there are no promises in life. Needing a clean start, our family moved to Alabama to live with some friends of ours. They were Brazilians who had attended one of our churches back in Orlando. Looking back now, I realized that we were technically homeless. Then my mother started a business. The city that we lived in was on the Gulf of Mexico, so tourists were always there for the beach. She would clean tourist condos, and the business started out small, but my mother grew it to become one of the largest cleaning subtractors in the area. I remember working for my parents during the summers. On average, I would spend 8 hours every day helping my parents in their warehouse by prepping cleaning supplies and carrying bags filled with bed sheets from washing to drying stations. This brings me to lesson number 2. When you fall, get back up. As the business grew and they could afford to hire staff, I worked less and studied more. Watching my parents struggle and work very hard, I felt that it was my obligation to do my part by excelling in school. I thought everything was perfect until my dad told my brother and I that things had taken a turn for the worse again and we would be moving back to Brazil. I remember packing up and fighting back the tears. Each closed box seemed like the end of a piece of my life. Before leaving for Brazil, we visited Orlando to say goodbye to some family friends. For the second time in my life, I was homeless. While waiting at a family friend's house on the day of our flight, another friend of my mother's came to say goodbye. They convinced my dad to stay and even let us stay in a home they owned until we could get reestablished. We restarted our life in Orlando, just like we had in Alabama. My father went back to driving a truck, ended up running his own business, and things have been going well ever since then. This brings me to my last point, lesson number 3, never lose hope.